Welcome everybody to our presentation today, and thank you for joining. Today we'll be talking about easing your pain with Office 365 and Federation and integrating your on-premise Active Directory credentials into Office 365, leveraging our ADFS Bridge Appliance. At any point, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the questions pane in the GoToWebinar meeting window. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Today we're going to talk about who we are, Celestix Networks. We're going to talk about our A-Series solution overview. We're going to talk about Federation and really talk about why Federation, where is it used, and basically what is it. We're going to talk about the pain of Federation and how we actually solve that pain for you as you're looking to migrate to Office 365. And then we'll wrap it up at the end with our summary and steps you can take to learn more about our solutions. So for a quick introduction, I'm Benjamin Derr, your presenter today. I'm the Senior Sales Engineer with Celestix Networks and been with Celestix for over a year and a half now. I'm an MCSC, MCSA, MCITP, all the good certification acronyms we all know and love. I've been working in the Microsoft realm for about 19 years and I really focus on infrastructure and information security. Some of my other previous roles, I've worked in core infrastructure, management of core infrastructure solutions, and especially around remote access and management. Just a little bit about Celestix. We've been around since 1999 and have been a purpose-built appliance vendor from the beginning. We are a worldwide organization with presence in Singapore, Japan, the United States, obviously, and the United Kingdom and Europe. Currently, we have over 5,000 customers under active maintenance, and we are one of Microsoft's largest security OEM providers. Some of you may know us from our TMG, UAG, or ISO appliance days, and with that, we've steadily built up a good following and great products. So let's talk a little bit about Federation and lay some groundwork for our discussion today. Most of everybody, I'm sure, is aware of what Federation is, where it's used, but for those of you that aren't aware of it or the strategic nature of it in your infrastructure, definitely want to kind of put together some terms for you so it makes sense for the rest of our discussion. In a nutshell, security and authentication really require trust, and we know that we live in a world today with a lot of applications that may reside outside of our trust boundaries. If you think of trust, something like Active Directory, it's got a specific boundary around it. You trust the credentials in it. The applications are trusting Active Directory to authenticate the users appropriately in devices and systems there. Some applications may have a separate trust model. You may have applications internal to your environment that are using a SQL database, or an LDAP database, or maybe a Unix NIS type of solution. Federation also encompasses a set of standards. Some of you may have heard of things such as SAML or WS Federation, which are really the most common standards today when we talk about Federation and Web Single Sign-On. There are a handful of others. OAuth is one that's primarily used for mobile applications. It definitely resides in that Federation sphere. And there are others that you may have heard of over the years. Liberty Alliance created some specifications. Microsoft did the Live ID. There's been quite a few initiatives, but really for most vendors, SAML and WS Federation are their primary standards today. And Federation really at its core is taking both those components, the trust model and a set of standards for authenticating applications, and allowing these applications to leverage what we call disconnected directories. And disconnected directory is something that the application doesn't necessarily have a trust relationship with at its core. It doesn't know any details about the directory. It doesn't know how to authenticate users. It doesn't leverage any of the information. So we use Federation really as a way to bridge that gap, if you will, and be able to port information from our directory to that end application and use it for authentication and perhaps some authorization activities too as well. Really the goal is, again, to simplify how many directories are we supporting as end users, and what is our login experience as IT support, how do users get authenticated, how many credentials do they have to remember, what if they forget their password, how do we remediate those activities there. And so that is what Federation attempts to solve, is a lot of those challenges of those disconnected applications. So the question really then next is, well, why do we implement it? Why should we really care? Maybe I have an application that only a handful of users use. Do we really care? Well, the answer really is that we live in a cloud-based world, right? We know that our businesses are going out and very easily able to subscribe to these applications, and it may be without our knowledge. But when an issue occurs, it may become IT's responsibility at some fundamental point, whether we like it or not. So Federation is really about reducing a lot of pain around identity management. And identity management is obviously that workflow of How do we provision new users? How do we change their roles as they migrate through an organization? For example, promotions or demotions, or they move to another job in another functional area. And how do we handle terminations? How do we remove their access? Through the years, at least in the United States, there's been quite a few regulatory requirements around handling termination access. Sarbanes-Oxley was one of those classic examples of forcing organizations to be able to manage system access requests and terminations. Single source of user information. With the disconnected directories, or directories that aren't synchronized with each other, it's very easy for mistakes to occur because they're entered by humans at a fundamental level. So really, from a user information, do you have the right information in all these various directories? Do you have phone numbers correct? Do you have user account names correct? What about password synchronization? You know, all those fundamental areas that we think about a user and all the attributes associated with it, are they consistent across all our directories? And typically, if you're creating users manually in different applications, they're not going to be consistent. It's just the nature of human activity. And user experience is a big driver of federation that we see today. You can reduce the users down to a single username and password, which is just their AD username and password. Huge experience for the end users, and obviously from a security perspective too as well. You reduce the I forgot my password calls to the help desk, so that users don't necessarily have to think about, okay, I have these different accounts. These are my passwords I've written down in my Excel spreadsheet, or I've written them in a sticky. Oh, hey, I changed it, but now I don't remember what it is. Well, we now have a single place to go change that password, and that's going to be Active Directory. And audit and compliance activities, obviously a huge area for most publicly traded companies, and even a lot of private companies too as well. You want to be able to report on user authentication activities. You want to be able to know that, hey, they are following your security policies. Maybe you're using strong authentication in your environment today. You want to leverage smart cards or two-factor authentication technologies. Definitely, federation is going to be that glue that helps bridge all these security and all of your on-premise processes to your cloud applications. So where is it really used? We've talked about this at some degree here. Primarily, first and foremost, is your software as a service applications. It can be all your cloud-based applications. Think of things like Office 365, obviously we talk about today, but PeopleSoft, Salesforce, Concur Travel, et cetera, et cetera. Another area is really around partner or business-to-business applications. For example, if you're a financial institution, you may have a partnership with various investment agencies, and you want to collaborate and share things, either through maybe a SharePoint workspace or some other application that's been developed internally. These are great places for federation as well. Another area that we see in enterprises is really around internal applications. If you go back to what I was talking about with disconnected applications and the ability to leverage Active Directory for these applications that don't understand or can't talk to AD, federation is a great way to bridge these gaps. Really, federation is only going to be for web-based applications. We're talking about protocols that obviously reside over HTTP. So if you have applications that are using non-standard protocols, typically federation won't work in there. But these could be thick client applications that are using web-based protocols. They could be mobile applications. They could be just simple browser-based applications, obviously, as well. Some examples of where federation is used. And really, at its core, any disconnected or cloud application that you support could be a prime candidate for federation. The only caveat really there is from a vendor perspective, you want to make sure they support federation. And I guarantee that most of them are going to support in this day and age. So with that, I'd like to talk a little bit about our bridge solution and really to introduce it and then talk about how we solve all these pain points. So our bridge solution is a product that we developed and launched last year, and it's really designed and really meet the goal of minimizing the whole deployment process around federation. So in our solution, we install and configure ADFS 3.0, which is built on and based on Windows Server 2012 R2. We do the configuration for Office 365 to support federation. We'll configure and support the directory sync for Office 365, and we'll provide built-in monitoring auditing capabilities. For those of you that may have used ADFS 2.0 in the past or have looked at it in the past, it's not simple to really understand what is going on with federation, how to actually install and configure. It's really kind of its own language, if you will. And the last piece of, hey, what is going on under the hoods? What are my users experiencing? Are we having failure attempts? Or, are users authenticating successfully? And be able to extract a lot of data, it becomes cumbersome. We also provide a purpose-built platform. As an appliance vendor, We do provide this in appliance format with our own dedicated hardware to really provide the reliability that you expect. We've hardened and secure the OS platform for Microsoft best practices in our own internal testing. And at its core, we are a browser-based management framework. And what that means is that we design our appliances to really be operated in a headless manner with minimal interaction with the host operating system. So all the system-wide functions that you need to take care of, configuration of Office 365, monitoring the server state, even setting things such as network configuration or domain membership, we handle all that through our browser framework. So you really don't need to interact with the underlying operating system as a whole. And we also provide, obviously, network management capabilities for high availability solutions. You may be looking at saying, okay, Federation is good, it's going to become a core service. How do we make sure that we are able to provide the quality service that our users expect with minimal downtime? That's obviously through scale-out technologies, and our network management is just a component of that. So some of our solution benefits is really, at its core, it's simple to deploy. What we operate under is we really strive to make the Microsoft technologies a lot simpler to consume, a lot simpler to integrate into your environment, and a lot simpler to operate. So simple to deploy is not a light statement that we just threw in there callously, if you will. We designed it for headless operation, and it's a really quick and painless integration with Office 365. We're simple to operate. We have our built-in dashboard reporting available through any really browser out there or mobile device access, and the user auditing capabilities, which I mentioned earlier. And it's simple to support. We, as the global organization, provide ongoing support for our solutions. So not only do you have our appliance that you would purchase and put in your environment, but you'd be well rested and understand that we do provide support ongoing as you need to. So if there's an issue that arises, not just hardware, but maybe software related, we are there to support you for the future. And we do provide next business day hardware replacement too as well. Some of the highlights from our bridge solution, what we really strive to provide SSO from any device, anywhere. So from your mobile users, from your desktop users, from your laptop users out in the environment, if they're coming from iPad devices or Android tablets, really we want to provide that experience for any of those devices wherever they are in the world. Simplify our integration with Office 365. We do provide the reporting for the infrastructure oversight. So what I really want to kind of key on right here is the identity store and Active Directory. So one of the questions that comes up is, well, hey, we have these applications, the users have their own password schemes out there. How does having on directory, how does leveraging Active Directory credentials increase the security of our environment? The answer is really kind of very simplistic if you look at it. By leveraging Active Directory, we have the one source for user authentication, and now they are constrained to your password policies. So you may have complex password policies, or you may be using fine-grained password policies for things such as more sensitive accounts, executive accounts, or smart cards is a good example too as well. Because we're leveraging Active Directory, those accounts now are subject to your security policies and not just the cloud vendor's policies. The other piece is that we are customizable to external applications or other applications. So we're not just Office 365. We do provide that out of the box, but definitely we can customize it and provide support for any other application you may have out there too as well. And high availability options with hardware, our own internal appliances with things such as dual drives, memory, and we control our own process for building our systems, as well as scaling out to multiple points of systems. So think of a load balance cluster in that respect. So let's talk a little about how we're going to ease your pain. So we talked a little about what is Federation and where it is. We're talking about our appliance, but let's kind of bring the two together, if you will. So one of the questions around Federation that we often get is, we're looking at this, we're thinking about Office 365, we're exploring Federation, what it means to us. It's really complicated to put in. It's been around for 15 years, the concepts and the protocols and standards. It's really complicated today. And the really answer is, maybe, depending upon your own internal skill set. And it's not to minimize, your staff or your skills. But, it is a different set of skills that a lot of administrators are starting to come to understand and come to grips with. What does it take to understand it? What is the terminology? How do I understand what is happening in the internal system? How do I understand where problems are coming up and how to resolve those problems? Federation projects are typically part of a larger project too as well. So typically a lot of organizations won't deploy Federation and then just have it sitting out there waiting for an application. They'll roll it in as part of a larger initiative. Obviously Office 365 is one of the primary drivers you've seen out there. Partner-to-partner collaboration is another area that I've seen Federation be deployed. Mobile apps line of business, and lastly, which don't want to minimize the importance of this, the cost savings and user experience initiatives. For example, we talked a little bit earlier about password resets and the pain associated with there, and there's a true cost to that. You know, if you can minimize where users have to reset passwords, provide self-service options, and really reduce that load on your help desk, that's a huge cost savings. And the user experience of just having that single password. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to companies and we've all seen the passwords on the sticky notes or under the keyboard or just right on the screen. You know, we really want to minimize a lot of those security problems. Specifically with Office 365 and Federation, one of the challenges that we see quite a bit is, you know, we like Office 365, it has Azure Active Directory, obviously. You know, why not just use that? You know, we can do directory sync and those kind of things. We can do password hash sync. And while maybe find acceptable or some environments, it's not really a true security posture. You're not really integrating into what you have already invested in your own environments. So with Federation, you can integrate into your own existing solutions. Maybe you have strong authentication technologies. Maybe you're doing user auditing and you want to be able to extract that data, be able to correlate it. Maybe you want to be able to do a little more robust network detection and look at where devices are coming from and be able to lock those down, if you will. Those are things that are not possible with just native Azure Active Directory. You really need an on-premise solution to support those requirements. And then obviously regulatory compliance requirements, what have you out there, still a major driver of keeping all those identities on-premise, leveraging Active Directory for those needs. Identity management workflows, maybe you have workflows in place today. Maybe you're using a synchronization engine or the self-service tools, you know, some things such as Microsoft Identity Manager or Tivoli or even ServiceNow. And you want to be able to leverage all that work you put into your environment and leverage for Office 365. And obviously we can definitely do that from onboarding, provisioning changes, deprovisioning, and terminations. Because we're leveraging Active Directory, all the changes are made right there. We don't have to wait for synchronization to occur to Azure Active Directory for a terminated employee to lose access. It's going to happen right then and there. And then obviously integrate with Office 365. Understand the infrastructure requirements, understanding how to configure and integrate federated identities, and directory synchronization. You know, where is that going to be stored? How are you going to configure that? Don't want to minimize the challenges there, because definitely it can be a 2 to 3 week process. You know, it can be trial and error, understanding what are the PowerShell commands I need to run? What are my requirements? Hey, what sort of domain requirements do I need for Active Directory or Azure and Office 365? Do I have the right certificates in place? You know, these are pieces that we all handle within our own process and our own wizard-driven integration. So some of the features of our own appliance and what we bring, so not only do we have our great wizard-driven process for Office 365, because we own and control our own hardware, we provide a lot of additional benefits to that, to your scenarios there. So we all, obviously as a hardware manufacturer, we have our own purpose-built software engine and management console. So not only are we just providing, hey, here's a server, white box, if you will, with Windows Server 2012, we provide our own management experience. We do offer out-of-band management for our higher-end appliances through IPMI. Again, the goal is really to use the web browser and the browser-based management and have you in the operating system as well as possible. We're high performance, we're on optimized hardware and software, and we do provide integrated backup or restore functionality for disaster recovery. So if there is ever an issue, you can just restore it back to a last good version. As I mentioned earlier, we are hard and secure Windows operating system, so you can best be sure that it can fit into your security posture very easily. Obviously, you can leverage your own security requirements, but definitely provide a good starting point. And then, again, if you have on-premise strong authentication solutions, definitely you can leverage those as part of our offering. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up a little bit. From a summary perspective, what we strive to do, and I think what we've accomplished very well, is deploy a fully functional SSO solution within 15 minutes. Obviously, once it's powered and in place, our wizard process will deploy ADFS, directory sync, and integrate to Office 365 within really a 15-minute process for you. There's no subscription fee or additional hardware or software to install. So what that means is that we are not a user licensing component there. Once you purchase our appliance, that is your cost. Obviously, Office 365 requirements are outside the scope of what we provide there. We do provide the visual dashboard for monitoring and alerting, so you can see key metrics such as what is the service day, when's the last time my directory synchronization. Let's look at user authentication attempts. How many failures are we having versus how many successful, and why are users failing to authenticate? And then obviously one call for your support needs. If you have any issues, we are here 24/7 to support you in your environment. If you definitely like to learn more about our solution, we do offer personalized deep dives for specific topical areas. We can do live demonstrations for you. We do provide a no-cost hardware evaluation program and proof of concept assistance as well. So with that, I'd like to open it up. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat window or the questions pane, apologize. And also visit our website at www.celestix.com. So the question we have is, we currently use Windows Azure Active Directory synchronization. You may be using the Derr sync or the new Azure Active Directory connector. And the question is yes, we do self-contain that within our own appliance because we do monitor all those pieces there. So we wrap all the prerequisite components onto one solution. There was one more question. Do we need multiple appliances for redundancy? What redundancy is built in? That's from Joe. Thank you, Joe. So the answer is definitely for a critical operation, probably as Office 365, you're definitely going to want to look at multiple devices just from a high availability or fault tolerance perspective. Our hardware, we do provide redundancy within the hardware, such as multiple power supplies, RAID configuration, and things of that nature. But definitely, if it is a core service and if you're a larger organization, I would encourage 2 appliances. And as the typical architecture recommendation. From Federation itself, you can scale up to 5 different Federation appliances together so that you can provide high availability across multiple data centers if you need. Thank you everybody for joining, and I look forward to talking with you in the future about your Federation needs. Thank you and have a good day.